Podcast 311 Reading Stone, Glass and Bronze. The Acropolis, Dromeas and Bussa as Living Texts. ISBN 978-976-9799783. Copyright 2026 by yours truly, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, Doctor of Divinity. The thematic and rhetorical question must be asked: why monuments are more than just stone? Imagine walking past a monument you've seen 1,000 times. What if it's actually arguing with you? Welcome to Monuments in Conversation, the podcast that probes how public art shapes who we are. I am Dr. William Anderson Gittins, Doctor of Divinity, broadcasting from Bridgetown, Barbados. The bold idea, monuments as arguments, makes this episode special. Today, we are unpacking my new scholarly work, Stone, Glass and Bronze, where I read the Acropolis, Dromeas and Barbados's Bussa statue as living texts. Listeners, you'll discover how these sites narrate history, embody power, and spark identity. We'll start with the Acropolis as a civic pedagogy in marble. Then we'll explore Dromeas, the glass runner, as a response to classical ideals. Next, we cross to Barbados to examine Bussa as a text of rupture. Finally, we'll weave them together. What they teach us about reading public art critically. Let's jump in. How does the Acropolis in Athens, Greece, teach, argue, and form us through its very stones? That's where our journey begins. The Acropolis in Athens, Greece, marble as civic pedagogy. When I look at the Acropolis, I see more than ancient temples. I see grammar of body, memory, and freedom, drawing from Brueggemann's claim that place is a theological category. I argue that these stones narrate ideals, instruct citizens, and even justify empire. And it's fascinating how you connect Huret's scholarship to this. The Parthenon, Propylaea, and Etruscan were just sacred spaces. They materialize rationally and divine favor. But my approach really shines when I analyze the Panthenetic procession. It wasn't just a parade, it was a lesson in what it meant to be Athenian. The architect choreographs the body. Elsner's idea of a technology of seeing is key here. Symmetry and accent train viewers to equate beauty with power. The stone proclaims we endure, and that's where the post-colonial lens matters. This is not neutral. It's an argument for superiority. My framing makes the Acropolis feel alive, almost like it's shaping us as we move through it. The point of empire and argument brings us right to the next monument, Dromeas, the glass runner in Athens, Greece. Dromeas, the glass runner, and fragmented modernity. Dromeas radically shifts the conversation. Where the Acropolis embodies the perfected static body, Dromeas presents motion, vulnerability, fragmentation, and contemporary anxiety. Glass refracts, shatters. It isn't imperial stone. My lived experience in Athens, Greece really colors my analysis. Dromeas doesn't reject the Acropolis. It coats it, then breaks the coat into layers. The runner is heroic, but only revolves into a body as you move around the sculpture. It's almost cinematic. The meaning unfolds as you engage physically. That's right. And with my cinematographer lens, I see Dromeas as a montage in public space. Sobchak's ideas on phenomenology help here. The art isn't static, It's a sequence of views, a narrative that changes with every step. It's a sharp contrast with the Acropolis's permanence. Dromeas reflects the fragility and uncertainty of modern Greek identity. Now, let's cross the Atlantic and look at Bussa in the heart of my argument. Bussa statue, rupture, and liberation in bronze. Bussa is where my thesis reaches its theological and political peak. The statue, arms outstretched, breaking chains, embodies rupture, not order or motion. It connects with the Sankofa bird, symbolizing looking back while moving forward, central to Afro-Caribbean consciousness. What's powerful is how Bussa rejects classical ideals. You argue its muscular, triumphant form is liberation, not proportion. Radak's scholarship helps frame this as a theology of emancipation, not empire. Bussa stands at street level, interrupting traffic, inviting engagement from passerby. Right, the location itself is a statement. Unlike the Acropolis on a hill, Bussa stands at a roundabout. Emancipation is not accent, it's interruption. Democracy here means demanding recognition, stopping traffic, changing the flow. That's such a compelling shift. These three monuments actually teach us how bodies, stone, glass, bronze, carry history's weight. Maybe we should probe how you link them together next. As a theologian, I have discovered that stones featured in biblical literature carry profound symbolic meaning, representing divine human covenants and spiritual realities, serving as memorials to God's promises. Genesis 31:45-48, Joshua 24:27 NIV. In the New Testament, Christ is the living stone and cornerstone, foundational to the church, with believers as living stones embodying a new covenant identity. 1 Peter 2:4-6 NIV. Interdisciplinary lenses, reading monuments as living texts. This is where my methodological takes center stage. I use 7 lenses: author, publisher, photojournalist, cinematographer, media art specialist, cultural theorist, and divinity scholar. Each lens draws out a different layer, narrative, iconic imagery, movement, ideological function, and metaphysical significance. My approach as a prism is spot on. Like manifests digital interferences, the monument becomes a platform shaping how it's received. Duncan's work makes clear these aren't neutral, they legitimize authority and identity. And the divinity perspective lets us see monuments as sites for transcendence, whether spiritual or political. Through Bahaba's concept of mimicry and difference, Dromeas and Bussa mimic and transform classical forms. They don't erase each other, instead they exist in productive tension. Wolff's notion of the other is crucial. Each monument helps define identity through contrast. It's fascinating how many interdisciplinary lenses reveal monuments as palimpsests, layered, multifaceted, and actively shaping us. This really sets up the practical implications for how we engage with public art. Practical implications reading monuments critically. So, how does this framework reshape our approach to monuments? I propose we move beyond the preservation versus removal debate. Instead, we critically read their arguments, see them as living texts, and reinterpret them rather than simply accepting or rejecting. That's an urgent call, especially amid today's monument controversies. If monuments form citizens, we should ask, what arguments do we want public spaces to make? How do we consciously shape these sites to teach, include, and provoke? This model encourages intentionality in what we build and what we remember. My hope is that listeners will start to see monuments as sites of conversation, not just reverence or controversy. My book, Stone, Glass, and Bronze, will spark deeper debate, and for listeners, engaging with scholarship from Brueggemann to Bahava, while widening their perspective. Now, let's wrap up by revisiting the big takeaways. In closing, seeing monuments as living conversations. First, we learned that monuments aren't neutral. They actively shape identity and narrative history. Second, interdisciplinary reading reveals their layered meanings from political to spiritual. Third, engaging monuments as living texts allows us to move beyond simple preservation or removal. My practical action step. Next time you encounter a public monument, pause. Ask yourself, what argument is it making? Whose story does it elevate and whose does it silence? Read it as a text, not just an object. That's the challenge, to read the world in stone, glass, and bronze and engage critically with the spaces that shape us. Thanks for joining us on Monuments in Conversation. Keep looking, keep questioning, and remember, the world is full of living texts waiting to be read. God bless.